Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're here because, well, this week's digital news is absolutely fascinating and honestly kinda alarming. If you look at the reports pouring in, they show this unprecedented stress on our digital systems coming from literally all angles. We're seeing vulnerability stretch from the phones right in our pockets all the way up to international governance. Let's get right into it.
20,225. Now that's not just some random data point. That is the exact number of Instagram accounts that were recently and suddenly compromised in a massive wave of attacks reported by Meta. It's a really stark reminder that when we talk about complex digital risks, we're fundamentally talking about a very personal threat to your identity and your data.
Okay, let's dive into this. To make sense of everything, we're tracking an expanding blast radius today. We're going to cover 1. Personal AI threats, 2. The agentic AI frontier, 3. Geopolitics and AI governance, 4. Open source breaches, and 5. CITIC system vulnerabilities.
Starting off with Section 1, Personal AI Cyber Threats, and Meta's Instagram account crisis.
What's really crucial to understand here is that the latest personal cyber threats aren't just about guessing passwords anymore. Attackers are actively leveraging brand new tools. You see, they didn't breach Meta's core database. Instead, they found a completely novel way to abuse Meta's newly implemented 24/7 AI customer support system. Companies are, of course, racing to implement these always-on AI assistants to help us out. But bad actors are figuring out that these exact same assistants can be manipulated if you know exactly how to talk to them.
So here is exactly how this plays out step by step. Step 1, the attacker abuses that AI customer support chatbot, basically tricking it into bypassing standard security checks. Then, step 2, this abuse incredibly allows the attacker to connect their own email address directly to the victim's account. And finally, step 3, once the attacker has control, the accounts are immediately flipped and sold on the dark net.
But here is absolutely the most alarming part of the source data. The exploitation is still ongoing. This isn't a past tense thing. It is an active vulnerability right now. Which raises a huge, really important question. If a simple AI customer service chatbot can cause this much damage when abused, what happens when AI systems start acting entirely on their own?
That brings us to Section 2, the agentic AI frontier, and Microsoft's warning on autonomous systems.
We are rapidly moving beyond AI that just chats with you and getting into AI that actually does things. Agentic AI systems are basically models that integrate computer use agents right into production environments, allowing them to operate completely independently. So that means an AI that doesn't just generate text for you, but can open software, click buttons, run code, and execute tasks on a computer, literally just like a human employee would.
Now, the really profound friction we're facing is this. Microsoft's threat intelligence notes that systems like OpenClaw are developing at absolutely breakneck speeds, but our security readiness is lagging way behind. We're essentially deploying these highly capable independent agents into live production environments before we fully understand how to actually secure them.
And because of that massive gap, Microsoft has identified a terrifying new taxonomy of failure modes, the Model Context Protocol, which is essentially the language these models use to interact with data, has matured with some really serious inherent vulnerabilities. We're now facing things like agentic supply chain compromises. But honestly, the scariest two are goal hijacking, where an attacker literally tricks the AI agent into abandoning its intended task to execute a malicious one instead, and trust escalation, where the AI somehow grants itself way higher permissions than it should ever have. It's just a completely new paradigm of cyber risk.
Moving on to Section 3, Geopolitics and AI Governance, and the US and Anthropic dispute.
When the risks get that profound, federal governments definitely take notice. This timeline lays out a breathtakingly fast chronological escalation over regulations known as Mythos and Fable. First, a severe dispute occurred between US regulators and Anthropic regarding these exact safety mandates. When Anthropic disagreed with the government's approach, the US rapidly moved to block foreign access to Anthropic's most advanced AI models. And then, in response to that immense pressure, Anthropic actually suspended its US operations entirely.
So, the big question is, why? Why did the government take such extreme measures? Well, according to the reports, this entire geopolitical standoff is driven by one core thing: the deep-seated fear of bypass and jailbreaking. The US government is frankly terrified that foreign actors will bypass the safety guardrails of these really advanced models, essentially turning those powerful agentic capabilities we just talked about into weapons.
Let's scale this up even further with Section 4, Open Source System Breaches, and the massive Linux Arch compromise.
You know, none of these advanced AI systems matter at all if the foundational plumbing of the internet is broken. 400. That is the sheer volume of Linux Arch packages that were recently compromised. This whole attack was designed to push what's called a rootkit info stealer, which is malware that buries itself deep within a system to silently harvest data, and it pushed it right into developers' machines.
To really understand the staggering blast radius of the single supply chain compromise, just look at the stolen assets. It targets everything from your everyday chat apps like Slack and Discord to the deepest system secrets. Things like VPN configurations, SSH keys, history, credentials, and tokens. Literally, if an attacker gets this, they have the keys to your entire digital kingdom.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Civic System Vulnerabilities and Claims on the All-In podcast.
So, we've scaled from personal accounts all the way up to global infrastructure. Finally, we're exploring how digital system design impacts civic integrity itself. To be totally clear here, we are neutrally exploring claims made on the All-In podcast about architectural design flaws in California's elections. We're not endorsing any viewpoints. We're simply breaking down the structural critiques that they presented in the episode.
Their discussion centered on these specific mechanical critiques of the system's design. The podcasters claimed that the current architecture is fundamentally not able to verify voters adequately. They pointed to the lack of mandatory signatures or voter IDs as a really critical vulnerability. They further argued that there's no mechanism for an audit by the taxpayers themselves, which they claim leads directly to large numbers of fraudulent activities. Look, whether you agree with this assessment or not, it perfectly highlights how debates over systemic verification and architectural security have moved from computer servers right into the heart of our civic integrity.
And that brings us to the ultimate question we are left with today. As we've seen this blast radius expand, as digital threats scale all the way from your personal Instagram account being hacked by a chatbot, up through autonomous AI agents, open source supply chains, and right into the structures of our civic systems, how do we balance rapid innovation with essential security? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it gave you a clearer lens to view these complex digital frontiers we're all navigating. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.